Fritz Shaw felt sick. It had just been announced that the company was moving its operations to Brazil. Tomorrow the details would be fully explained. He had 10 years under his belt as production manager. Now that was shot. The company produced leather and woolen gloves and mittens. It was labor-intense and the company was the town's biggest employer. He knew none of the other employers were hiring and things looked bad as far as another job looked. That night when he told his wife, Toni, about it, she couldn't believe it. Why would they want to move to Brazil? Well, I think because for the last 3 years all of our wool yarn and half of our leather has come from Brazil. Besides, shipping is cheaper than ever between Brazil and the United States. They are looking at the bottom line. They won't have all the regulations and labor is cheaper. I have to say it doesn't look good as far as another job goes. I know. Just today we were discussing the shutting down of one of our lines and that will mean 10 layoffs. There are going to be a lot of people looking for work very soon. The 3 months went fast. He was offered moving expenses to move to Brazil but declined. He was given a decent separation package. He was home on his 3rd day of unemployment and working in the yard when Holly Hunter, his neighbor, invited him to join the neighbors for coffee at her house about 8:30 in the morning after the kids left for school. He said he would join them. That night when Toni got home he had supper all ready and Toni was very happy with him. She was plant manager of what was now the town's leading employer. She told him she had gotten an email from the corporate president congratulating her on the fact the plant had the greatest increase in production of any of the 17 plants in the country. She said that was really a feather in her cap. He congratulated her on the achievement. Later that night she said she had just talked to Holly Hunter and Holly had told her he had joined the neighborhood wives for coffee in the morning. He said he enjoyed talking to them and she said he was becoming a good wife. He said it wasn't necessary to call him a wife. She laughed and said sure in a way, telling him she meant it when she called him a wife. The next morning at coffee Holly mentioned Toni's achievement and he told them about her calling him her wife because he was joining them for coffee. Harriet Stowe said they could make him look more like a wife for her and he said that was not necessary. He thought Harriet was a little stuck up but never said anything to anyone about it. They talked about one soap opera that they had all watched except him. Holly suggested he watch it so he would know what they were talking about. He said he would give it a try. That afternoon he watched the soap opera and quickly figured out who was who. He thought the show was a little on the stupid side but knew the women watched it and thought it was a great show. That night Toni told him she had been picked to be on a committee to look at ways to increase production in all the mills of the corporation. She said it was charged to examine the issues in depth and form a plan for all plants. Then she dropped the bomb. The meetings were to be at the corporate headquarters in Atlanta, Georgia, and it was estimated it would take 2 weeks to complete. She said she had to leave Sunday at 5 to fly to Atlanta, and all the arrangements had been made. He hated to think of her being gone for 2 weeks but realized it was necessary. It was a feather in her cap to be picked for an important project like this, and could lead to a promotion. Sunday came all too fast and he drove her to the airport and they enjoyed a lingering kiss before he wished her luck and she went through security. He watched as her plane took off, and then returned home. The next morning at coffee he said that last night he had heard sounds he'd never heard before in the house. He said it was as if the house was empty or something. When one of the women asked if he was afraid to be alone he said he wasn't, that it was just so different without Toni there. They talked about what they thought would happen in the soap opera and he gave his opinion. The women were leaving and Holly asked him to remain for a bit. The women were all gone and she said, some of the women were talking about you and how it might be nice if you were a little more on the feminine side. I told them I would talk to you to see if you would let us make you a bit more feminine. Our coffee get-togethers would be more enjoyable. You see, with a man present they don't feel comfortable talking about things like sex and stuff. But if you would appear to be on the feminine side then they would relax and talk more openly. I can solve that problem easily enough. I can have my coffee at home. I am sorry that they can't or don't feel comfortable with me here. Clothes don't change who a person is or how they see things. Now you're being stubborn. I don't want you to quit coming for coffee. Can't you just let us see what we can do to make you fit in better with our group? That's all it is. What Harriet Stowe said about you looking more like a wife gave the other girls the idea to make you look more like a wife, that's all. Now, as a favor to me, can't you agree to let us have some fun with you and make some changes? I don't know about this. What will it all involve? I know Candy mentioned makeup and Harriet said she had plenty of dresses she would never be wearing again, and she said she was about the same size as you. Why can't you let us have some fun and make some changes in you? Are you afraid you might like it wearing a dress, I mean? No, it isn't that. It's just that I am not sure this is a good idea. Come on. Please, Fritz. Do it for us. We won't hurt you, I promise. Please, Fritz. He couldn't think of an argument against it, and she said they would all enjoy it so much. He agreed, and she gave him a pair of silk panties to wear tomorrow. He took them and wondered if he was doing the right thing. At least Tony was out of town and wouldn't see him in a dress. Back at home he wondered if he wasn't getting into something he would regret. However, in the middle of the afternoon he tried the silk panties on. They felt nice on him. He enjoyed the silky feel of them. He had never enjoyed anything like this before. He left them on the rest of the day. The next morning he was at Holly's before the kids left for school. He told her he didn't think he could go through with it. She said she had told the girls and they were all excited about it. How could he let them down? Then she said every one of the girls was planning on doing something different to help him be more feminine. She told him not to worry about it, that they just wanted to have some fun with him. He didn't know about that. The girls arrived and every one of them was carrying bags of different sizes. He was getting worried about what was to happen. They all had their first cup of coffee and talked amicably amongst themselves. He could feel some tension in the air and knew they didn't know where to start. Finally Sonia said if no one else was going to start she would. Her husband was a doctor and she said she had him bring home what her contribution was. She told Fritz to get his shirt and t-shirt off. 5 minutes later he was sitting and sporting a pair of C-cup gel-filled breast forms. Then Trudy said she had to shampoo his hair as she was going to redo his hair. As she shampooed his hair she explained that she worked in a beauty parlor for 4 years before she was married and had to quit. She soon had rollers in his hair after she had trimmed it somewhat. She put a foul-smelling lotion on the rollers. Then she put a bonnet on him and started the dryer to speed up the process. As he sat there they had him take his shoes and stockings, then his pants off. They helped him get everything off. Shelley put some lotion thickly on his legs and under his arms. Then in a short while she washed it off, removing his body hair in the process. Then Kayla had him rise up in the chair and put a lace garter belt on him, and then it was shiny sheer nylons followed by a pair of red pumps with a flower decorating them. He was getting into the swing of things and didn't flinch when Kelly pierced his ears and put a pair of sparkling studs in. Then she placed a matching necklace around his neck followed by a matching bracelet. He knew her husband owned the leading jewelry store in town, and wasn't surprised when she took off his watch and put a woman's watch that he said was beautiful on his wrist. Trudy had to remove the rollers and brush and comb his hair, then spray it for hold. He now had a nice-looking pixie hairdo. She said she wished he had longer hair so she could have given him a lot of curls and waves. Then Harriet hooked a black bra on him and had him slide into a black silk slip. When she showed him the dark blue brocade dress he had to admit it was very pretty. Soon she was zipping it up the back. Then Trudy had him sit while she did his makeup. The women were laughing and really having fun. He caught the spirit from them and was laughing with them. They all were having so much fun. It was like being a teenager again. His makeup was done and he looked like a real lady. Everyone told him he was beautiful. They had another cup of coffee and someone said this was the most fun she had ever had since a pajama party when she was a junior in high school. That's an idea! Why don't we have a pajama party? What do you all think? They all said it was a great idea except Fritz. They had to decide where to have it. They decided the only house that didn't have any kids to be bothered by noise was his. He wasn't so sure about it but finally agreed to host the party. Holly said it was lunchtime and that they should go to Braun's family restaurant for lunch. He said he didn't want to go anywhere dressed like he was. Fritzy, we are not going to take no for an answer. You are going with us. Now, I'll get you a purse and no one will be the wiser. He was handed a purse and escorted out to Holly's car. Half went in Holly's car and the rest went in Trudy's car. At the restaurant they were greeted as women and seated. The waiter came to take their orders and he recognized Sam Tolliver, who used to work at the plant. Sam didn't show any sign of recognizing him. They laughed so much and so often it carried over to the tables surrounding them. He was no longer apprehensive about being discovered as a man in a dress. He told a joke and Harriet said that she just had to tell her husband that one. They got back to Holly's home and the women all were talking about how they were looking forward to tonight's pajama party. They all headed home to prepare. Holly said, "Fritzy, I have to thank you for waking the neighborhood up. I have never seen the girls so enthused about anything like this before. Thank you for everything. You have been a great sport. The girls had so much fun changing you and I know from now on they will always remember it. You have given us something special. I have a present for you." She left for a moment and returned with a nylon nightgown trimmed with ruffles and lace. When he asked what that was for, Holly told him it was a present for his cooperation and for him to wear tonight at the party. He returned home and got out some mini eclairs and mini cream puffs from the freezer for the party. He decided he should have a selection of soda pops, so he headed for the store. At the store he saw platters of cheese and sausage all made up and got 2 platters, then got a selection of crackers to go with them. Then he got a variety of sodas and wondered what else he could get. He knew he had enough beer and alcohol, if they wanted that, but he doubted they did. He came out of the store and saw a nail palace salon across the street. He wondered if he should get his nails done. He laughed to himself over the thought of getting his nails done, then decided what the heck and went there. When he left he was wearing medium-length false nails with a bright red shine to them. He was carrying 2 bottles of polish and a bottle of salon-strength polish remover. He giggled to himself at what he thought the girls would say when they saw his nails. He really enjoyed the pedicure most, especially the lower leg massage. The shiny kiss of pink polish really looked great. At home he did a hurry-up quick clean of the house. He skipped supper, he was so nervous over all those women coming over to spend the night. At 7 Tony called and he talked to her and assured her that he was all right and making it just fine. He didn't tell her about the change in his wardrobe. They talked for 20 minutes and ended proclaiming their love for each other. The grandfather clock chimed 8 times and he wondered what time they would start to arrive. He wondered if they'd canceled the party and hadn't called him. 10 minutes later Trudy arrived first. Then it was a steady procession with Harriet arriving last. She was carrying an armload of clothes, telling him he couldn't wear the same dress every day. She said she also included a matching gown and robe set for tonight because she figured he didn't have one. Holly told him to go put it on. He went into the bedroom and put the dresses in the closet, then changed into the gown, and when he had it on he couldn't believe how nice the satin felt against his skin. The gown was azure blue with ruffles on top. The robe was matching but with lace trim. He found a pair of blue fluffy mules in the closet that fit, a little tight but fit well enough. When he went out all of the girls said he looked just darling. They then went into the bedroom to change. As they were changing he put the platters and crackers out for them to snack on. When they came out Trudy was wearing a red plaid flannel long gown trimmed with wispy lace. The girls teased her that it was a granny gown. She said it was the most comfortable gown she had. "Grandma Trudy, would you like some cheese and sausage?" he asked, laughing. For the rest of the night she was Grandma Trudy. Then Kayla noticed his nails and said he must like what they did to him or he wouldn't have gotten his nails done. He said he wasn't sure why he had his nails done, but it was sure enjoyable, especially the pedicure. They told him to take his slippers off so they could see his toenails. They all laughed when they saw his pink toenails, telling him they looked as feminine as you get. Harriet said she had more dresses for him and that she was going to clean her closet and he could have all of her old dresses. She said she wears a dress at the most 3 times, so they are all like new. They all did some makeup on each other, trying different things, and he liked the blue eyeshadow best on his eyes. They were having such an enjoyable time that the party lasted beyond midnight before they decided to call it a night. The next morning he put his robe on over his nightgown and made fresh coffee. The coffee was ready and Harriet was the first one up. He poured 2 cups and gave her hers. They were sitting at the dining room table and she was smiling broadly. You know, the last couple of days have been the most fun I have ever had in my life. You are a hero. Do you know that? You allowed us to do what we wanted with you and have accepted it. In my book, that makes you a hero. I never thought you would go through with it, but you are taking it like a trooper. You know you do look very nice. I just wonder what Tony would say if she saw you. I'll bet she hits the roof if she sees you. I think you are right. She is gone until a week from Saturday and I can't wait for her to come home. The longest we have been apart since we were married was the 2-day seminar she had to go to when she was promoted to plant manager. Now with me out of work and no real job leads, I am thankful her job pays what it does, so we don't have to sell our home and move. I am sure lucky to have a wife like her. Yes, you are. I really like Tony. She is level-headed and down to earth. Now tell me, how do you like wearing dresses? I am just starting to get used to them. In some ways it's nice, but in others it's a pain. Just wait until you find out how much time it takes to get ready to go out. The makeup and choosing the outfit you are going to wear can take forever. Well, I won't have to worry about that. Tomorrow is Thursday and Thursday evening is when all of us girls get together to go out to eat. You are going to come along with us. We go as a group and you are part of the group. I will not take no for an answer. I don't know what to wear. Tony and I only go out every other Saturday to eat. We were never ones to go out for supper a lot. Well, now you are going to go out on a Thursday and don't even think about not going. Trudy and Holly came into the dining area and heard Harriet's remarks. They reinforced Harriet's demand. Harriet told him to stop over at her house in the afternoon, that she had some evening gowns to get rid of. By then all the girls were up and saying what a great time they'd had, having an old-fashioned pajama party. They all thanked him for hosting it, then laughed as some said they wondered how their husbands were doing getting the kids off to school. It was mid-morning before the women left and each one of them gave him a hug and kiss on his cheek when they left. He then did a quick after-party cleanup. In the middle of the afternoon he went to Harriet's house. She took him into the walk-in closet and picked out 3 evening gowns she said she would never wear again. There was a black one, a red one and a bright yellow one. She told him she was sure he would look great in any one of them. That night when Tony called, he told her he was going out with some of the neighbors tomorrow night for supper. He said he didn't know what time he would be getting home. When she asked how he was doing, he said he was doing all right. She asked what he was doing to keep occupied and he told her they had a pajama party last night at their house. He said there was plenty of laughter. She asked what he wore and he said, enough to not give the women any ideas about me. When they hung up, Tony wondered what he had worn for the party. She dismissed the idea that it could have been a nightgown. But the thought came back. She thought about how persuasive Holly and Harriet could be. She laughed at the thought of him in a nightgown. The next morning at coffee, the women decided to go to Marty's place. It was known for its steaks and Trudy extolled the stuffed tenderloin. She said it melted in your mouth. After the women left, he said to Holly that he wasn't sure about how to apply makeup. Holly told him to practice, that she was sure he would get it. He said he didn't have any makeup, that Tony used only lipstick. Holly wrote down a list of the makeup to get and told him where to get the best makeup at the most reasonable price. When he left, he knew he had to go shopping for makeup. He went to where Holly had suggested and the sales lady helped him pick out everything on his list. He got everything, and almost drove past a self-serve shoe store. Then he remembered he'd better get some shoes to match his evening gown. He didn't have any trouble finding a pair of black patent leather pumps, but it took a decision to pick a pair of red heels. He finally settled on a pair of strappy sandals with a 3-inch heel. He was looking for something to go with the yellow dress, but he couldn't find any yellow ones on the shelf in his size. The saleslady asked if she could help him and he asked what would go best with a yellow dress. She suggested white ones, then said they had had one style in yellow a couple of days ago. She began looking. Soon she got a short ladder and got a box from the top of the shelving. It was a pair of yellow sandals with a 2-inch heel. He said he would take them. He was walking toward the checkout when he saw a pair of black, almost knee-high boots with a 3-inch pointed heel. He had to try them on. He walked in them and loved how they felt. He'd always thought that a woman in boots looked sexy, and he just had to get them. At home it was early afternoon, time to practice putting on makeup. It just wouldn't look right. Finally he got a look that he thought looked not bad. He wiped it off and noticed that he had to get ready. It took him some time to decide which evening dress to wear, but finally he decided on the yellow one. Then when he had the yellow sandals on, he didn't like the way they looked. He tried the boots and liked those much better. It took him less time than he thought to get his makeup on. He had to be at Holly's in 5 minutes when he was finished. He grabbed one of Tony's black clutch purses and put his wallet and some makeup in it. He arrived at Holly's right on time and she praised how good he looked. She said he looked sexy in that outfit. The other girls arrived just as they were getting into the car. Harriet pulled up with the rest in her car, and they were off. At the supper club everyone told him how nice he looked. Harriet said he looked better in that dress than she did, and that the boots really set everything off. She said she had to get some boots like his. They had a wonderful meal and he enjoyed himself tremendously. He now felt fully confident in his appearance as a woman, and was enjoying the charade. All except Holly and Harriet had a few drinks, and it was obvious that he was accepted by the women as one more of them. He had never been part of a group that he had this much fun with. When they got back to Holly's house, she said she wanted to talk to him. He saw she had a very serious look on her face. Tonight was really a fun time. I have to ask you how you feel about wearing dresses. I want an honest answer. Well, it certainly is different. I don't really know how I feel about it. I do know I'm having a blast and I hate to see it end. Tony is getting home a week from Saturday. I'll be back in my men's clothes then, and this will all be a memory. I have told you this before, but you have added so much to our fun. I would never have thought one person could make such a difference to a group like ours, but you have. I hate to think it will end, but I understand. I think you're really being a great sport to go along with anything we girls think up. I just hope nothing goes wrong. As long as it stays in the neighborhood, what can go wrong? I never before thought about wearing a dress and I don't know why I agreed to do this, but I do have to say it isn't really bad at all. I'm happy that you're taking it so well. You know, a lot of men would be furious to be put in a dress. Or terribly embarrassed. I think this shows you aren't afraid of your masculinity or your femininity. He returned home and found he was still feeling the drinks. Just for kicks he wore the nightgown Holly had given him. It felt great, and he fell asleep as soon as his head hit the pillow. The next morning he was awake before 7. He made himself some coffee, and as he enjoyed the first cup he thought about how much fun last night had been. He thought about how he never had felt that close to a group any time before, not in his life. He wanted to enjoy it as long as possible. When Trudy came in for the coffee clutch, she was carrying a rather large bag, and said she wanted to do something with Fritzy's hair. She started to work on it and he wondered what she was doing. They each had about 3 leisurely cups of coffee before Trudy handed him a mirror. When he looked, he saw his hair had been highlighted. He had 3 distinct colors now. He had to admit it did look nice. He thanked Trudy and she was all smiles. When the group broke up, he headed home and did some cleaning. He knew they didn't meet on Saturday or Sunday. He tried to think of what to do on the weekend. He decided that if nothing else he would do some yard work. Saturday morning, and he was having his coffee in Danish when the phone rang. It was Tony. She told him they were meeting even today and that they had come up with some innovative ideas to increase production in the plants. She said they still had a long way to go, but there was definitely progress. She asked what he was doing to keep busy, and he said he was finding all sorts of little things to do. Then she dropped a big one. The vice president production had mentioned that it might take longer to come up with their program than they originally thought. He had said he wanted the finished document as soon as possible, but he wasn't going to break up the group until they had something concrete to present to the board of directors. Tony and Fritz then professed their love for one another, and he hung up. He thought about starting to enlarge the patio with patio blocks. They had talked about enlarging it by about 8 feet, and now would be the perfect time to do it. He went out to check his previous measurements, wrote them down, and realized he couldn't do the job in heels when his heels sunk into the ground. He headed to the home supply store, where a man explained step by step how to do it. He said they had machines to remove the sod at exactly the right depth, and then you added sand and they rented tampers to compact it, and then it was simple to lay down the cement slabs. He suggested a different block for the outside edge, and Fritz thought that would set it off great. He put half the blocks and the sod removing machine into his van, and as he started driving he could sure tell the difference, with all that weight in there. He stopped at a shoe store and got a pair of black flats to wear, and wore them out of the store. He had unloaded the machine and was carrying the cement slabs and piling them on the edge of the patio when Holly came over. "Hello there. Trudy and I are going shopping. Do you want to go along? The weekend can be long when you're alone. Why don't you come along with us? I suppose if it isn't going to be an all-day affair. I want to get started on this project today. We should be done by mid-afternoon. Please come along. You'll enjoy it, I promise." He agreed, and as soon as he had all the slabs stacked he washed his hands and grabbed a purse and was off to Holly's house. At the mall they went from store to store. He smiled as Trudy raved over a new dress that she just had to have. How could a woman get so excited over a dress? All 3 of them laughed over her enthusiasm. In the next store he saw a sparkling green dressy gown. It attracted his attention because green was his favorite color, and he had to have it. Holly smiled when he gushed about how pretty it was. "If you like it, get it. That's the first rule of shopping. Do you really think I should get it? Try it on and see how it looks on you. That way you'll know whether to get it." He tried it on, and when he looked at himself in the tri-mirror he knew he had to have it. Both Holly and Trudy laughed at his antics and both told him it was really him. He bought it. Then they just had to get him some shoes to match. Trudy knew just the shoe store. She took them there, and he had to choose between pairs of green shoes and a pair of green boots with a 3-inch stiletto heel. His love of boots won out and he bought the boots. As he was paying for them, Holly plopped down a pair of green spandex tights that she said would complete the outfit. Both women said he would look great in the outfit. Mid-afternoon and on the way home he asked why he had bought the dress when he probably wouldn't get to wear it. Holly reminded him that Thursday night they went out to eat and he could wear it then. He felt better, thinking about that. He told them that Tony didn't think she would be home on Saturday as originally planned. They sympathized with him and Trudy asked if he was going to continue to wear dresses after Tony got home. He emphatically said he was going to change before she got home. There was no way he was going to let her see him in a dress. Back at home he got busy on the patio addition. He kept at it until he had all the sod removed. He was amazed at how easy and how time-consuming it was, and smiled at the progress he had made so far. He was shocked when he realized it was already after 7. He walked into the house just as the phone rang. It was Tony, and she asked what he did to keep busy all day. He told her it was a surprise and she would see when she got home. She told him they'd made real progress today, and that she hoped Monday would be just as productive. She said she couldn't believe how some people will argue over the smallest point. As usual, they ended their conversation by telling each other of their love for each other. He slept deep that night. It had been a full and busy day. Sunday morning, and he returned the sod cutter a half hour after the store opened. He got some bags of sand and the tamper and was back home soon. He got the sand spread and leveled in what he thought was record time, then realized it was noon and time for lunch. He had a sandwich and a bowl of soup, then it was back to work. The machine tamped the sand, and when he was done he stood and admired his work. He then returned the tamper and got the rest of the cement slabs to complete the project. The man told him exactly how to start, as the first slab would decide how the project would turn out. He measured and marked a place on the old patio, then remeasured. He had a 1/4 inch difference in measurements, so he did it again, being very careful to get it right. His final measurement came out right in the middle of the other 2 measurements. He laid the first slab and then continued to lay slabs. It was going right along, but by the time he had not quite half of them laid, his back was starting to ache. He quit for the day and went in to rest and to eat supper. Tony didn't call and he wondered if she was sick or something. Then the answering machine beeped and he listened as Tony told him they'd had a late meeting and had met yet again today to try to get things done. He went to bed early, and in the morning when he got up he felt he'd really accomplished something yesterday. Today after coffee he should be able to complete the job. At coffee they all had a fun time, and he contributed his share. Holly related his dress buying experience and all of the girls congratulated him on his shopping prowess. After the coffees he got back to the patio edition. He finished it and it looked great, if he had to say so himself. He just had to take pictures of it. That night when Tony called she explained they had met on Sunday and were making such good progress that they continued until 11 at night. She said they started an hour later today, but things were coming together now. He told her he'd completed his project, and she was in for a big surprise when she got home. He knew they had talked about the patio for years, but he'd never gotten around to it. Tuesday at coffee 3 of the girls said they were going shopping and invited anyone who wanted to go along with them. No one else said they were interested. He thought about it, then decided he didn't want to go either. After coffee he cleaned the house and kept busy doing little things. When he took a break he wondered what he would be doing if there wasn't the coffee clutch every morning. Wednesday, he did all of the windows, inside and out. He had to admit they looked great with not a streak in any of them. Thursday at coffee Trudy inspected his ears and proclaimed that he was ready to go the next step. She removed the studs and inserted a pair of dangly earrings. They were gold with clear crystal balls hanging down from them. The girls all said he looked great in them. After coffee he returned home and heard a noise coming from the bedroom. He thought he had surprised a burglar. He called out to see who was making the noise in the bedroom. His jaw dropped when he saw Tony standing there. Her mouth was equally open, staring at her husband wearing a dress and his pretty dangly earrings. It was silent for 3 long minutes. "So, this is the big surprise you have for me." "No, it is not. What are you doing home so soon? You said it might go longer than expected." "Yesterday everything went faster than any of us expected. We finished up last night and this morning I took the 6 a.m. flight back. I wanted to surprise you, and it looks like I did just that." "Why are you wearing a dress?" He explained everything about how he had ended up in a dress. He said he'd planned to have the girls remove and change everything back before she got home. He ended by saying that he'd go change right away. "Not so fast, Buster. You can stay in those clothes. In fact, I think you should wear them from now on." Then you will not only be the stay-at-home wife, you will look the part. I never intended on wearing dresses all the time. I'll go and change right away. I told you to leave them on. You wore them to please the girls, but now you won't wear them to please me? I told you to wear them. Do you love the girls more than you love me? Now, I expect you to stay wearing dresses. You must like them or you wouldn't have kept on wearing them. I got lost in the fun the girls were having by having me wear dresses. It was really a lot of fun, but now I want to get back to my men's clothes. You will continue to wear the dresses. I am telling you that I want to see you wearing them. You do look very nice and I expect you to keep up the good work and wear dresses for me. Do you understand? I am telling you that I don't want to continue wearing dresses. If the girls can't take me wearing men's clothes, I will quit going for morning coffee at Holly's. It was a moment of weakness on my part that led to my putting on a dress in the first place. Then the girls treated me so great that I just continued to wear them. Listen! With your highlighted hair and your pierced ears and colored nails, you look more feminine than masculine. I would never have thought to put you in dresses, but as long as you're now wearing them, you will continue. I said once before, if you love me as much as the girls, you will continue to wear them. You know I love you more than anything. Good, then it is settled. You will continue to wear the dresses. Things were not going as he'd thought. He was trapped and would have to continue to wear dresses to please Tony. If he didn't, it would show that his love for her was not as important as he thought it was. He was going to wear dresses for he didn't know how long. Tony finished unpacking and told him he should do laundry. He did 4 loads and put them away. It was approaching supper time, and he called Holly to tell her that Tony had come home and he couldn't make it to go out to eat. Holly told him to bring Tony along with them. He said he would see what she said. When he told Tony about going out with the girls for supper, she was all for it. He called Holly and told her they would meet them at the supper club. He decided that if he had to wear a dress, he was going to wear his new green dress. He got it on with the green tights and boots. When he looked at himself in the mirror, he thought he looked on the pretty side. Tony looked at him in his dress and saw it really clung to his body and was a very beautiful dress. He had his makeup just right and was ready. Tony wore a plain black dress with a flared skirt. She was slightly jealous because he looked better than she did. At the supper club, all of the girls told him he looked just fabulous. He was on the quiet side, something that the girls all noticed, but they didn't say anything. Harriet told Tony she had given him a lot of dresses that were old to her but still in style. She also said he'd himself bought the outfit he had on. She said he looked great tonight. On the way home, he again pleaded to be allowed to wear his men's clothes. He made a passionate plea. I will allow you to go back to your men's clothes if you honestly tell me that you didn't buy the outfit you have on right now. If everything you have was given to you, then I will believe you just couldn't say no. You know I can't tell you that. Besides, what does whether I bought some things have to do with it? If you hadn't bought anything, then I would think you really don't want to wear women's clothes, but if you bought a pretty dress or shoes or actually anything else that could be construed as women's clothing, then you must want to wear women's clothing. I am only continuing what you started anyway. He knew it was useless to talk to her, so he changed the subject, asking her how it was that she was home so early. Things started slow then last Saturday, but Sunday they took off. And by Tuesday we were working on getting it all down in writing, and that went surprisingly fast. When it was all over, the vice president production told me that I was the most important contributor and arbiter in the whole process. He said he was going to keep his eye on me. That sounds great. I always knew you were destined for greater things. Thank you. At home, when they were getting ready for bed, he put on the nightgown Harriet had given him. Tony said it was a beautiful gown, and he told her that Harriet had given it to him along with a matching robe. He told her he wore it for the slumber party. She said she had wondered what he had worn and had thought about a nightgown, but then dismissed the thought. She told him she had to go into work tomorrow to check her emails and address any problems that may have come up while she was gone, but that she should be home by noon. The next morning, as he put on a floral print dress, he actually felt physically sick. He thought he was going to throw up but didn't. He had his usual cup of coffee, and even that didn't taste as good as it usually did. Tony came out and told him he looked just darling and reminded him she should be home by noon, then left for work. He finished the cup of coffee so slowly it was cool by the time he finished it. Then he slowly trudged over to Holly's house. At the coffee clutch he was very quiet. Finally Trudy asked him what the matter was. He hesitated for a minute, then it came out. When Tony saw me in a dress, she said I had to continue wearing dresses. I tried to tell her I was only going along with you girls, and she said that if I loved her more than I love you girls I will continue wearing a dress. She won't listen to me at all when I tell her I want to go back to wearing my men's clothes. I don't know what to say to her to get her to change her mind. They all sympathized with him, and he did feel a little better, but not much. He thought about anything he could say to Tony to get her to change her mind, and came up empty. Finally, he was the first one to leave. The women talked about him after he left and finally agreed to meet at Holly's house at 7 that night. He had no idea what they were up to. Tony was home at noon and they had lunch. She asked if he went to Holly's for coffee and he said he did. After lunch she noticed the addition to the patio. She asked him about it and he told her all about what he had to do to complete it. He said that was what was supposed to be the big surprise. Well, your other surprise was bigger. She laughed and he knew he couldn't argue with that. For the first time in ages he took an afternoon nap. When he awoke he smelled supper cooking. It did smell great. At supper he was very quiet. His dress didn't feel the way it did before, and he wasn't enjoying himself like he did before. After they ate he helped clean up, but his heart wasn't in it. They were reading the evening paper when the doorbell rang. Tony opened the door and saw Holly and a group of women there. They came in and filled the living room. Fritz immediately left, not wanting to see any of them. Holly started out, "We came to talk to you about how you are treating Fritz. He only went along with what we wanted to do. It was not his idea and he didn't want you to see him in a dress. The fact that you saw him was an accident. All of us women are here as a group of one to ask that you let him wear what he wants to wear." Harriet chimed in, "He has livened up our group tremendously and we think the world of him and don't want to see him hurt. I will tell you the truth, that I miss Fritz the man but I love Fritzy the woman. I gave him a lot of dresses and things, but it was only because he adds so much to our group. He is a very special person and I can't stand to see him hurting like he was this morning." Then Trudy got in on the act. "This morning he didn't add his usual comments that make our group unique. I've seen him show his feminine side and his masculine side. He's not afraid or ashamed of either side. Let him be his own person." Then Carolyn, who didn't say much, added, "I want you to know he makes me feel good, whether he's wearing a dress or men's clothes. He is a caring, compassionate person. He will go along with just about anything, but you shouldn't lay down laws to make him feel less of a person. That is wrong no matter if he is your husband. Let him be himself. He has never come on to any of us and has always treated us with great dignity. He is our friend." Tony responded, "When I saw him in a dress I couldn't believe it. I thought he must like wearing dresses, so I told him he was going to keep wearing them. It was not a punishment. I will talk to him and see what develops. I am sure we can work things out. I never thought this would bring about something like this." Tony called to him and he appeared. "These women don't think I am treating you right. They make some very good points. You and I have to talk about things. I think you owe them a thank you for sticking up for you." He thanked the women and they left. Tony told him to sit down, that they had to talk about something very serious. "You have some strong friends in those women. They stood up for you in no uncertain terms. They also made me think. It seems you have done more for them than just be a listening ear. You made their day, so to speak. None of them feel I should require you to wear dresses. I am prepared to admit I was wrong in saying that you have to stay in dresses. So you can wear what you want to wear. You're a grown man and you do have the right to wear what you want. I must say you do look nice in dresses. Thank you. I don't really know how I feel about wearing a dress. In a way it's fun, and sometimes I feel sexy wearing a dress and sometimes I feel way out of place wearing one. I have an idea to throw at you. I want you to think about it before you answer. If you want me to wear a dress, just tell me, and if I feel it is all right, I will wear a dress. Now I may wear a dress at other times, but I know I don't want to wear one all the time. That's a great idea. I know you love only me and I shouldn't have taken advantage of it. Please forgive me. There is nothing to forgive. I know it was a major surprise to see me in a dress, and if I was in your place I probably would have reacted in the same way. Now I feel a lot better. So tomorrow are you going to wear men's clothes? I can't until they get these breast forms off of me and a haircut that gets rid of these waves and curls and streaks. Maybe Trudy can give me a unisex haircut. I'll have to ask her. They both laughed, and knew there wasn't any problem they couldn't work out. The next morning when he asked if they could take the breast forms off they hesitated and asked if he could stand one more day in a dress. He said he probably could, and they said they wanted to go out one last time with Fritzy. They said he should bring Tony along. When he called Tony and asked if she wanted to go out with the girls for supper she readily agreed. It took him forever to decide what to wear. Now he understood what they meant when they said it could take a long time to decide what to wear when you were going somewhere special. By the time Tony got home he was wearing the black evening gown and his black boots with a necklace and bracelet to match his earrings. Tony told him he looked sexy. He told her she could look just as sexy. At the supper club both Fritzy and Tony talked to the other women. Fritzy was talking to Harriet when a well-dressed man approached. I couldn't help but notice you. I think a woman looks just great in boots. Would you like to join me for supper? She's taken and not available. Trudy shot in. I just thought you were all a bunch of single office girls who stopped for a drink. I'm sorry if I offended you. He took Fritzy's hand and gave it a kiss. All of the girls saw this and laughed when they saw him blush. Tony was first with, well, we all know who the sexiest woman here is. Trudy joined in, it doesn't take her long to attach a man. Harriet added, she draws men like flies. We better keep an eye on her. The kidding continued even as they were eating. Harriet said she was going to get some boots so she could draw looks too, but she doubted she would draw the looks like Fritzy did. Tony remarked, I never thought about wearing boots, but now I think I am going boot shopping. Does anyone else want to go along? There was a chorus of yes, and even Fritzy said yes. They laughed and agreed to go boot shopping tomorrow night. Carolyn said her husband was going to flip when he saw her in boots. Trudy said her husband would probably attack her and want sex as soon as he saw her in boots. Every comment brought laughter. On the way home Tony said, that was the most fun I've had in ages. I can see why you get along so well with the girls. Trudy asked if I was ever available to go for coffee and donuts on Saturday morning and I told her that sounded great. I suppose tomorrow you will have the breasts removed. I don't know if I will or not now. Tonight was so much fun I hate to see it end. If you are undecided I want you to know I love you no matter what you wear. I've always known you're a special person, and now that's reinforced by how the girls treat you and care about you. The next morning at coffee he was given the breast release agent and told it would take no time to get his breasts off. I've decided to leave them on for a while. Now that I can wear what I want, thanks to you girls, things look completely different. I have you girls to thank for that. It's funny, when you're required to do something you rebel, but when it's your own choice it's a completely different world. The girls all cheered and gave him a hug and a kiss on his cheek.